Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, has the buckle come off the Bible Belt? Also, the V-Team takes a look at competing gaming bills. And Speaker Mike Hubbard wants to be the $100 million man. That's the tax man, and he's coming for your wallet. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V.
The Voice of Alabama Politics, with your host, Bill Brett, and the V-Team with Claire Austin, Susan Britt, Jack Campbell, Baron Coleman, Charlana Spencer, and special reports with Jonathan Barbie. Now, the #1 political show in Alabama, The V.
Welcome to the Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by the V-Team.
Good morning.
Welcome.
On Mother's Day morning, might I add.
Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day.
Yes.
To all the mothers. Claire, you're the mother on the set.
Mother of 3.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we have the mother of all omnibus gambling bills, was presented by President Pro Tem Senator Dale Marsh, who has set forth what many think is a bill that's long overdue. And I'm not going to get into all the particulars. I want y'all to break it down for us. But it really sort of sets up a scenario where there are no new taxes. The voters get to make their own choice. And if people don't gamble, they don't have any money involved in this. Susan, I mean, this is a pretty interesting bill, isn't it?
It is. He had a study done at UAM or AUM. I'm sorry, AUM, showing the economic impact. It would also create 11,000 jobs statewide. Now, what it does is it opens up the existing casinos that we had before, say the Milton McGregor's, the Green Tracks, and all of that, includes the Indian gambling, takes everything to a Class 3 gaming, which makes it table games.
Right, like Vegas-style games.
Right, right. And so this really opens it back up.
I mean, Claire, you've been around the State House quite a bit lately. I mean, are you hearing scuttlebutt over there?
I have, and like Susan says, I think this is a little more comprehensive and fair and equitable because the 2 counties, Macon and Greene, they have their own CA, so this would allow them to go back into business. The Indians get a little bit more than what they have. And then the lottery. I mean, I think that there's polls around everywhere, and I think from what I'm seeing, people are more apt to vote for gaming than they are for a tax increase. So the tide has really shifted in Alabama politics over the last 4 or 5 years.
Well, Alabama Political Reporter ran a poll, and what did you say? Taxes are ranking just they're
about as popular as Satan. It's astonishing when given the opportunity to choose between voting to raise your own taxes or voting to legalized Class 3 gaming at 7 locations. I mean, it's overwhelming. The interesting thing about the bill, some of the pushback I think can be taken care of with tightening the bill a little bit.
Right.
Some of the folks I've talked to up in the legislature were a little concerned about the commission itself not having the power to arrest, not having the power to initiate proceedings, to execute writs. The way it looked, the way it was originally drafted, and they did beef it up a little bit on the second version. I think maybe a third version could probably eliminate a lot of those concerns by giving the commission almost police powers and prosecutorial powers, allow them to actually initiate actions, serve writs, and do those kinds of things. The bill's certainly not dead in the water. I mean, there's a lot of support out there for it among the folks. Right. Now, whether or not that translates into them picking up the phone and calling their legislator, that's yet to be seen.
One of the things that we're hearing is that the Birmingham Big Mules really want this because Birmingham has a lot going for it. One thing it doesn't have is a lot to do. I mean, it's not a destination spot like a Miami or even a Chicago in that sense. But if they could bring back world-class horse racing, put in a world-class casino, and then bring in the entertainment that goes along with it, you would have to build a double-decker highway to Atlanta, wouldn't you? I mean, Claire.
To Birmingham, you mean?
No, from Atlanta to Birmingham. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting you say that, because we better get a leg up on this, because it's my understanding they're looking and doing this in Atlanta, and some people have committed to money and that sort of thing. I've been talking to some legislators and people in Georgia. So if Alabama doesn't want to miss out on the boat, we better get moving with this plan. And I agree with you that there needs to be some tightening up in the legislation, to make sure that they have the right commission like they do in other states.
It should be done right.
It should be done properly.
Exactly. And putting it at Birmingham stops that Atlanta to Mississippi traffic, catches them right in the middle of our state, gets them to spend their dollars
Don't
here.
talk too much now. Mississippi will be coming over here hiring lobbyists.
Not like they haven't done that before.
Any former governors you have in mind? That brings up an interesting point, because historically, Alabama was the place that they wanted to put the international airport.
That's right,
Delta. And they didn't want it, and it went to Atlanta, and Atlanta became
Wait a minute.
Atlanta.
It wasn't that Alabama didn't want it. It was some greedy politicians that needed their hands rubbed too much, and they said, see you later, we're going to Georgia.
Well,
in Alabama?
Yes, in Alabama. We're talking back in the
unbelievable.
It's a way of life.
Yes.
Susan and I live 45 minutes outside of Birmingham, but if it had been in Atlanta, we would be in one of the wealthier suburbs.
Yeah.
But all jokes aside, really and truly, I hope that this legislative body will take this serious and give and pass this gaming bill to give the voters of the state. This is not saying you're for it. It's just letting the voters have a voice and vote a constitutional amendment up or down. We're for gaming, we're for lottery or not. The people deserve that. The polls overwhelmingly 4 and 5 years ago, people were for that.
Yeah, people have a right to say. Now, somebody that does not want the people to have a right to say, and this is not alarming at all, is that just mere minutes after Senator Marsh finished his press conference announcing his plan, Speaker Mike Hubbard introduced a plan that would give the Porch Creek Indians a monopoly and would also raise taxes by at least $100 million. I mean, what's up with that, Barron?
The $100 million tax man.
He has that.
I mean, this is, talk about a real turn here. Governor Bentley comes forward with his tax proposal. Mike Hubbard's favorite media outlets excoriate Governor Bentley. They call him a Democrat. They run a April Fool's joke. Oh, he's just declared he's a Democrat. He's raising taxes. Now he's all of a sudden on the tax bandwagon. And he's pushing this idea that the Porch Creek Indians deserve an exclusive monopoly. That somehow that gaming needs to be limited to their 3 sites. And I'm here to tell you, the folks do not want that to happen.
Now, I've been up there enough to know that is just not going to happen. The Senate is not going to go along with that. You can rest assured of that. And, I don't have a dog in the fight, but the bottom line is there is enough to go around for everybody. These counties, the Indians, I mean, they don't need to have it all. There's enough. Let the free market decide who
even if
who
it
makes
went,
it.
even if it made it out of the state house, I don't think the voters, if it went to a CA, would actually vote it up.
Well, we're told that to really be constitutionally legal, it has to go to a vote of the people. Now, some lobbyists are saying that's not true, but just study your case law down in Florida, North Carolina, Arizona, Mexico. I mean, the Porch Creek are really fine people. You and I spend a lot of time.
We spend a lot of time. We've got a lot of friends in the tribe. They're great people.
And I love Barron and Jack and their radio show, but I wouldn't want them to be the only radio show in the state,
Absolutely.
even though it may be the best one.
Well, speak for yourself.
I mean, the point of what we're getting here is that's the greed factor of them thinking they should have this exclusivity. And I just don't think that the legislative body is going to go along with that. And I think it's very interesting, odd, muddy that the speaker, that's the only thing he wants. They lose. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what's going on there, but something's fishy.
Well, we're going to get to fishy in a little bit. All right. You're watching The V. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
The tax man.
The V is sponsored by Spot On Strategies Group.
It's time to take a road trip. In Alabama, the road and the restaurants are calling. We've elevated barbecue to an art form, a meat masterpiece. Fine dining your thing? National awards are putting us on the map. Because everything's fresh and local. And if you like your dinner with a view, well, you can't beat this. Alabama has a road trip with your name on it. Which one you gonna take?
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. We were talking about fishy. And you know, I don't like to spread rumors any more than anybody else. I love to hear them, but I don't like to spread them. But one of the things that Inside Alabama Politics has said that was circulating around the State House, and we've all heard it, is that the Porch Creek Indians, and I don't know that there's any truth to this whatsoever, it is said that the Porch Creek Indians have offered to pay Mike Hubbard's legal fees if he can kill Marsh's bill. That it's also been said that the governor and Mike have met, and we know they've met and talked, but that the governor would sign the compact with the Indians if Mike could get him his tax package. All of a sudden, Mike is like the taxing dragon. I mean, he's all over it. So that may be the fishy. I don't know.
That rumor is rampant at the State House, everywhere.
And not only that, anytime, we say this all the time. Jack and I talk about this on the radio show all the time. Anytime somebody's behavior just drastically changes.
Correct.
Anytime they go from holding a position to completely holding the opposite position with vehemence and passion, there's cash involved.
Right.
It raises everybody's eyebrows.
Well, you've got to remember, and Susan, didn't Mike, one of his felony charges for trying to get an exclusive contract for one of his clients?
Yes, with APCI.
Yeah.
And then another one of his felony counts, lobbying the governor for a fee.
Right.
As Speaker.
Right. So, I mean, he's got a pattern of doing this.
Pattern of practice. So here we go again.
Yeah. But, I mean, for Mike Hubbard, who has beat Democrats over the head for years for wanting to raise taxes, he wants $100 million, and he wants his compact.
Well, let me tell you, he's giving the Democrats all they need now with these tax packages.
All over the internet, Republicans are outraged. State workers are outraged. They're threatening to leave the party over these taxes.
Does this seem of a sign of desperation for the Speaker?
I think so. Well,
to drastically change his opinion, so?
You know, Tom Sovil up at Madison County, one of the most conservative guys you're ever going to meet with a large mailing list, he came out this week and called for Speaker to step down. He said this gaming issue and the tax issue with his conflicts of interest is just, he can't.
It's egregious.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
It totally is.
Barron, we heard rumor, and then it proved to be true that the Speaker threw a hissy fit over a bill on Wednesday. You hear the same thing? I'm hearing the same thing. It was an interesting bill that would raise a barrel of, what do we call it? Industrial lubricating oil from $3.30 a barrel tax to $200 a barrel tax on average. Sounds like the people of Alabama get lubed on that one. Yeah, it's about a 6,000% tax increase on that. And the thing is, here's what I don't understand about what Speaker Hubbard's doing. It's only going to raise about $10 million. Right. This thing would only raise about $10 million annually. Another bill he passed, only about $10 million. 10 million here, 10 million there. Now, it does add up to something. Yeah. But you're hanging these guys out to dry on a series of tax increases that their opponents are going to use during the next election cycle to beat them about the head and neck. Yeah.
Also, in that, two of those bills have to do with state employees, their longevity pay, and what was the other one? The
holidays.
Oh, the holidays. Yeah, two of the paid holidays they would take in furlough. State employees are coming apart.
But if I was a Republican, a rank-and-file Republican, I would revolt against the Speaker for hanging me out to dry like this, forcing me to take vote after vote after vote on raising taxes, instead of picking one tax like the cigarette tax, raising it enough to cover the hole and going home. Well, I had one legislator tell me in confidence, he said, look, I've got to run in 2018 again. And I may have to run again in 18 months if there's a special election because of redistricting. He said, I think Hubbard's going to be in jail, so he's not running for anything, and I'm going to be out here running on his tax package, and somebody runs to my right, I'm dead.
Well, I think particularly all these freshman legislators, I mean, I hope that they are listening to us or listening to other people. They do not need to vote for these tax increases like this.
It's just deadly.
Now, they're taking them on voice votes is what I'm understanding at this point.
So there's no record.
Well, so that's in committee, but when it gets to the floor, it's going to be a vote.
Yeah, but in the committee, you know who's on the committee, so.
Right. But, I mean, Susan, you know, we heard that Hubbard charged up to the 6th floor from his office and made serious threats to the legislators. I mean, didn't y'all hear that?
Well, we know one Republican that didn't vote for it, and he got in trouble for it.
Yeah.
And he was told to march back in Thursday at 12:45 and make sure it happened.
And guess
Take
what?
it back into committee.
They voted for it, and I mean, Hubbard told him to get it passed.
And he threatened. The other thing is he threatened him and threatened not to give money to him.
Right.
Because he didn't vote for
to his district.
To his
university in
district.
his district.
Yeah.
Said he would not. On 2 of them, he threatened.
Maybe he
with
needs
that.
to be censured at the Joint Rules Committee.
Yeah, well, that would be the right, that would be the proper method. I mean, someone told me who witnessed it said he looked unhinged, that he looked like he was coming apart. And whatever it is he needs from these taxes, he's determined to get it, isn't he?
He is. And I mean, for a sitting Speaker of the House to literally, from what I understand, run from his office up to the 6th floor, that's
reckless.
It's reckless. It's not somebody who's really on top of things or being able to keep a cool head.
He is a very desperate man
logical.
In very dire financial straits, with his liberty, his family, and his career in jeopardy.
Yeah.
And he's acting like it.
Right. We only got about 2 minutes left. I wanted to talk a little bit about the compact. We brought up the compact. We did a story this week. We talked to several attorneys, constitutional attorneys, and gaming attorneys that said the governor cannot sign a compact with the Porch Creek Indians for table gaming unless he has legislative approval. Barron, you've looked at this.
I
as
have.
an
Yeah,
attorney.
there's a section of the Constitution that just flat out prohibits it. The Alabama Constitution flat out prohibits it. You cannot give exclusivity without a constitutional amendment because the Constitution prohibits it. You're going to change that section of the Constitution or else give them some other constitutional authority to do it. If the governor goes this route, it's going to end up in court. You're going to lose. Now, whatever Mike Hubbard thinks he's going to get out of it, he would have already gotten out of it, and he'll ride off into the sunset. I say this, Mike Hubbard's plan, if they go this route, puts the entire burden and onus of passing gambling in the state of Alabama on the deacon of the First Baptist Church in Tuscaloosa.
I don't think you'd like that, Susan, do you?
No, not very much.
I mean, because this is a deacon that deeks. I mean, he does his job. This thing, though, I mean, these attorneys say there's a suit down in Florida where they sued the governor over doing that.
The governor moved forward in Florida and went ahead and signed a compact with the Seminoles, I believe it was. The legislature sued and said, no, you can't do it without, our approval here. Well, now they backpedaled and got the approval, but still, if he does this, it opens Alabama up for more litigation.
Yeah, but the governor is smart enough, and he's, there are plenty of lawyers that look to that. These lobbyists just need to read the Constitution of Alabama, and they'll figure it out, hopefully. And I'm sure that the governor's legal counsel, they will look at this and know that he needs to do that. They're not going to let him go down that alley.
Well, let's hope not. But the lobbyists are telling folks
that's just what they're paid to do, I guess.
Well, I only thought lawyers are paid to lie.
You tell them if you pay a lobbyist, they'll say anything to get their
Some might. Some might.
All right. Well, we're going to have to leave it on that unbelievable note.
Egregious note, that is.
You're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back with Jack Campbell filling in for Susan Britt. Stay tuned.
In 1977, an 8-year-old boy picked up the game of golf from his father. The odds of that same boy then making it to the US and European Pro Golf Tours, 1 in 7 million. The odds of the Big Easy winning the US Open twice, 1 in 1.2 billion. The odds of him having a child diagnosed with autism, 1 in 88. Ernie Els encourages you to learn the signs of autism.
Welcome back to The V, the voice of Alabama politics. We're joined by Jack Campbell.
Good morning.
Jack.
Good morning, Jackson.
Happy Mother's Day, Clary.
Thank you.
I don't normally like to bring up some of the folks that are out there doing media work. I tend to leave the media alone. But Yellowhammer News has spent the last month and a half, 2 months, beating Governor Robert Bentley like a rented mule. They have called him a Democrat. They have called him a liberal. They have even referred to him as O. Bentley, as in a derogatory term towards the president. That group, Yellowhammer News, is having a big gala, or is it gala? Gala to celebrate power and influence. And Governor Bentley has agreed to go to that Claire, what's your thoughts on that?
I think it's egregious, but really, I mean, I don't understand why he would go to something like that. And we're talking about power and influence, and in that kind of what kind of led things over in Lee County with the speaker is power and influence. And it seems to me that there's a lot of people listed on that list that are also involved in things in Lee County. I'll tell you one thing, I'm very glad I didn't make that list for the Yellowhammer most influential people.
I mean, Jack, you know, you've been around this business for a long time. Is it really appropriate to celebrate how powerful you are and how influential you are?
You know, I'm not going to take a pot shot at him for that if that's what he wants to do, but there's a difference between editorializing and journalism. And I think that what this particular publication has been is nothing but editorializing. It's not news. And it's all this is going to be is a love fest of the establishment. And that's what we need to get away from in Alabama is the establishment. We have new elections in 2010. We changed the landscape. The only thing is it got a lot worse.
Yeah. Well, you know, Terry Lathan, who is the chairwoman of the Republican Party, isn't on the list, Barron.
I'm not surprised.
Well, she's
I don't
not
know
part
why
of
she would be. She hadn't taken a stand on anything since she's been elected.
I'm not surprised. And that's not a pot shot at her, but she's a very little known state party chair. State party chairs most of the time are just ceremonial positions. I don't want to take a pot shot at her. I will take a pot shot at one of the people on the list. I'll be surprised if Mike Hubbard shows up at this event. Mike Hubbard is on trial for using his power and influence for personal gain. If he was to show up while waiting on his trial date with all the legal wranglings going on over in Lee County and celebrate how powerful and influential he is, I think it would look awful.
Be a PR
Absolutely
nightmare,
awful.
I would think.
The other thing is, too, it's one thing for a blog to go out and comment on someone being powerful and influential.
Sure.
It's another thing to invite those people in like it's an Oscar ceremony and clap and applaud about how wonderful and powerful and influential they are. This is sick and twisted. You should go into government for public service, not to be treated like you know, Robert Downey Jr. or Tom Cruise. I mean, come on. This is the most absurd thing I can possibly imagine taking place in the state of Alabama with the legal climate as it is, with the corruption climate as it is. You mentioned half the or almost all the people named in Mike Hubbard's indictment are on the list.
Yeah, I agree with Barron that it's fine to have a list.
Yeah.
You want,
and
but
it's
to
cute.
have a
It's fun.
banquet and to celebrate how great thou art, to me, is just over the top.
It's a little over the top. I mean, there's no question. And I think, you know, for the governor, and as I sit back and think about all this, that Yellowhammer and the man who runs it, I mean, for them calling and doing the things they said about Governor Bentley, the governor of our state of Alabama, is disrespectful. It is in bad taste for the office of the governor, and I just don't think that they should be, you know, you shouldn't talk about the office of the governor like that. And the governor, it just shows total disrespect for him. If they were going to talk about it, why wouldn't they talk about Mike Hubbard?
Yeah.
Look, and he's the $1 million tax man now.
Yeah, they had a little bit to say about Mike.
They did talk about Mike. They described what he's going on right now, what's going on around him, as him confronting a tough legal situation. If that's not shilling for the man, I don't know who's paying for this, but if that's not total outright shilling, what Mike Hubbard's going through is a tough legal situation.
Yeah, they make it act like you ran a red light and got caught by one of those cameras.
Yeah, or he's fighting a ticket camera. Yeah, I mean, that's a tough legal situation.
I mean, they're just trying to put a little tiny icing on the cake for him.
The man is accused of 23 felonies. These are felonies.
Facing 20 years in prison on each count.
Right.
For peddling influence. And now we're going to go be honored by it.
Yeah, right.
This is absurd.
Well, I mean, the thing is, this is what I call the locomotion time.
Yeah, it's embarrassing for the state, really.
Mike Hubbard's down there last week. I was there. Some other media was there. Not many of the media was there. And I think the ones that were there didn't understand what happened. I took 10 pages of notes. Took me 3 days to go through them and check all the legal stuff, then talk to smart people and find out that what happened was Mark White made a lot of noise and the governor basically gave him zilch. The judge gave him zilch. I mean, Barron, you follow the case.
If you read the Opelika Auburn News, which has basically become Mike Hubbard's megaphone, I mean, they print whatever Mike Hubbard's version of everything is. It made it sound like the Attorney General's office was caught red-handed, was forced to turn over a bunch of information that tended to prove Mike Hubbard was innocent. That's the way the story read. And I saw that story the next morning. I thought, wow. Talked to a couple of people who were there, and they said, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, I didn't even think it was the same case.
Yeah. I mean, it's night and day. The news coverage is really lacking on this particular issue in the state.
It is very difficult to understand, but I mean, Judge Walker is being fair. He's hearing everybody out. But Jack, he hasn't given him any ground, is he?
It didn't look like it from the accounts I read, that he basically, they went through the motions of the motion hearing, and that was about it. And I don't think there was any outcome that helped the defense. But as you say, to read the OA news, it sounds like the prosecution has just, failed in its job.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that the judge ruled on and said, he said, look, I'm going to let you depose Luther Strange in writing on one subject. Why did he give the job of Special Attorney General to Van Davis? I mean, Claire, this judge has already answered that question for him.
Yeah, he has. So he was just giving them a little bait. I don't know.
And the Supreme Court had the opportunity to rule on it and passed on it. I mean, it's an appropriate way to do things in Alabama.
Have you noticed in the OA news all the photos of Mike are big smiley faces? I don't think he smiled in the 4 years I've seen him as Speaker of the House. I don't know, there must be some archival photos.
Well, I know this week at the State House, they said his hair was on fire most days. So I think you'll need to call Bosley's Hair Care for Men in Beverly Hills.
It was on Wednesday on fire, I can assure you that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's a tough time for the Speaker, and Yellowhammer feels sorry for him. They're going to celebrate him. I hope they all have a grand time.
I hope they have a big time.
I just hope they get pictures, because I want all the pictures I can get of them all hobnobbing with the material witnesses.
Speaking of pictures, I don't know how much time we have left. I think it's totally admissible if he's celebrating his power and influence to bring a picture of him doing it into trial. If I'm the judge, I let it in.
That's going to be the last word. You've been watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. You can catch us throughout the state on your local cable channels or every day at alreporter.com, and like us on Facebook, because Jonathan wants you to. Thanks for watching The V. We'll see you next week.